The price of betrayal. I never thought I'd be the type of person to sit here telling this story. I always prided myself on being level-headed, calm, a bit of a protector. I took care of things, kept my promises, and tried to make sure that the people I loved were safe. My wife, Claire, she was my world, or at least I thought she was. And in the beginning, I thought we had something that others would envy. 8 years of marriage, a house, a good job. What more could anyone need? I'm David, 35 years old, a manager at a local firm. Not much to write home about, but I've always been the type of guy who keeps his head down, works hard, and expects little. But there's one thing about me you need to know. I love Claire more than anything. We were partners. We built a life together. And for a long time, I thought we were building something that would last forever. For the first few years, everything seemed perfect. We were that couple that everyone else looked at and thought, they've got it all figured out. We had our routine. I worked, she worked, and then we'd come home, share dinner, and talk about our days. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid. We even started talking about starting a family. Claire had always wanted kids, and I wasn't sure at first, but the thought of us having a child together, raising a little version of ourselves, started to feel right. We started saving. Claire talked about the nursery we'd put together, the names we liked, and how she imagined herself as a mother. I started planning in my head. Maybe I'd need to take a promotion for a better salary. Maybe we'd need a bigger house. We were planning for a baby, but as much as I tried to be excited, something started to feel off. Claire seemed distracted, and I don't know. Maybe it was just my own fears creeping in. She'd brush it off, tell me I was being paranoid, but the energy wasn't the same. We weren't as close as we used to be. It wasn't just that we weren't talking about our future together the way we had. It was more than that. It was the way she looked past me when we'd have dinner, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. Still, I kept pushing those thoughts down. I told myself that things would get better, that this was just a phase. But as much as I told myself that, something inside me couldn't ignore the feeling that I was losing her, that she was slipping away. It started with the late nights. She'd get home later and later from work. At first, I figured maybe there was just a big project. She'd brush off my concerns, saying it was just work. But then it became a routine. Every night, she'd be gone until after dinner. I started making meals for one. And maybe I was naive, but I kept thinking that it was just a busy time for her. I don't know what made me start paying attention to her phone. Maybe it was the way she'd guard it now, the way she'd lock it as soon as she got a text. But I remember one night, it was a Saturday. She had been out with friends for a supposed work event, and I'd been sitting alone at home, trying to fill the silence with whatever distractions I could find. Her phone buzzed, the screen lighting up on the coffee table. I don't even know why I looked. Maybe I was tired of pretending everything was fine. Maybe I was already starting to feel the distance between us, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I picked it up, and there it was. A message from someone named Jason. I miss you too. Can't wait to see you tonight. My heart stopped. The words stared back at me, burning into my mind. Tonight. That was the part that cut through me. I didn't even need to read more. I knew. I didn't have to dive into the full conversation to understand what was happening. The world spun. I felt the rush of disbelief. Then came the anger. I threw the phone down like it was burning me. How could she? How long had this been going on? All this time I'd been planning our future, our baby, and she was lying. She was seeing someone else. I didn't confront her right then and there. Part of me wasn't ready to hear the truth. Part of me didn't even want to believe it. But that night I stayed up. I couldn't sleep. The house felt empty in a way I had never noticed before. When she came home, I pretended like everything was normal. We had a quiet dinner, but I couldn't stop thinking about the message. It was all I could focus on. The next night, I couldn't take it any longer. I confronted her. I couldn't be silent anymore. Claire, I said, my voice shaking, we need to talk. She looked up from her phone, and there was something in her eyes, something I'd never seen before. Fear? Guilt? I don't know, but she knew what I was about to say. About what? She asked, trying to play it off, but I could see the defensive walls already going up. I didn't waste time. I know about Jason. Her face went pale. Her eyes flickered away from mine,
You've
as
been
if the
seeing
truth
him,
was
haven't
too
you?
much
I
to
said,
bear.
my
My voice thick with betrayal. At first, she denied it. David, no. You're just, you're overreacting. But I wasn't overreacting. Not this time. I saw the texts. I miss you too. Can't wait to see you tonight. Her breath hitched. Then, like a dam breaking, she started to cry. But it wasn't the kind of crying that made me feel sorry for her. It was the kind of crying that made me feel like I had been a fool, like I had been deceived. I'm sorry, David, she whispered through tears. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I'm not happy anymore. I don't know how to explain it, but I've been feeling like this for a long time. The words hit me like a slap in the face. I'm not happy anymore. Those were the words that destroyed me, because I had spent so much time trying to be the best husband I could be. I had done everything to support her dreams. I was there for her. I listened. I loved her. And for her to say she wasn't happy, it broke me. I asked her, "Are you leaving me?" She didn't answer right away, but her silence was enough. I knew. And in that moment, it felt like everything I'd worked for, everything we had built, was just gone. I couldn't even process it. The betrayal was suffocating. The weeks that followed were a blur. Claire filed for divorce. She hired the best lawyers. She took everything: the house, the cars, our savings, even the retirement funds we'd been setting aside. And when it was all over, I had nothing. Not a penny, not a home, not a wife. Just the wreckage of a life I thought I knew. I don't remember much about the months after that. It was like I fell into a haze. I turned to alcohol. It numbed the pain. It made everything a little more bearable. I'd drink to forget, drink to stop feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. And for a while it worked. But eventually, even the alcohol wasn't enough. I hit rock bottom. I woke up one morning, hungover and alone, and realized that I had become someone I didn't recognize. My life was slipping away from me, but I couldn't let it. Not again. One night, in the middle of a stupor, there was a knock on my door. I didn't know who it was, but when I opened it, there was a woman from the building. She'd seen me at my lowest, stumbling through the hallways like a ghost. She just stood there, looking at me with something like pity, but also something else: concern. "You're better than this," she said quietly. "You've got to stop. You've got to let go of the past, David." At first I thought she was crazy. How could she understand? But her words hung in the air, refusing to leave my mind. Maybe I didn't have to keep punishing myself. Maybe I could find a way out of this. And that's when I realized I had a choice. I went to therapy. I attended meetings. I quit drinking. Slowly, piece by piece, I started rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy. I'm still not the man I was before Claire, but I'm learning to be the man I need to be now. The man I was always supposed to be. I may have lost everything once, but I'm not losing myself again. And that, I've come to realize, is worth more than anything Claire ever took from me.